Nigeria exports more oil than any other African country. It's also in the middle of a fuel crisis. How is that even possible? It's because Nigeria lacks enough refineries, the crucial step between the crude oil that's pumped out of the ground and the fuel that goes in your gas tank. Africa's richest man is building one of the largest oil refineries in the world.
This is one single largest refinery line in the world, which is 650,000 barrels a day.
Getting to 650,000 barrels of refined fuel won't be easy. It takes a whole complex covering almost 10 square miles.
How is this going to change the playing field in Nigeria?
Well, it is going to change it a great deal. This one we're building will satisfy 100% the need of Nigeria.
If we meet domestic requirement, domestic demand, we will still have surplus to export. So that we become what we, Nigeria, should be, the hub of petroleum products supply in the region.
Dangote Group also wants to tap another underused resource, Nigerian workers.
We are going to have our own direct employees, probably between 2,000 and 4,000.
Employing thousands and solving a country's fuel crisis won't be cheap, but it will be profitable.
A bit of it.
But you are, at the moment, putting together one of the largest ever investments in Africa and in Nigeria with your petrochemicals, fertilizer and refinery. Is it on schedule? Just very briefly.
Yes, it is. It's going to be on schedule. The refinery, we schedule it to be in 2018. When you talk about a refinery, you just think that, yes, it's just an ordinary refinery. You know, William, today the refinery we are building is the largest ever single train in the world, not in Africa. Yes, it's 650,000 barrels. You know, even the Reliance, when they started, was 500,000. You know, in terms of models, yes, maybe they built that now, they are at about 1.3, but our own is a single line of 650,000, which is by far much more than the consumption of Nigeria. So we have to try and sell within the, you know, West Africa. Yes, we are not really, we didn't agree to stop. We've started, and even at $50, $45, the numbers make quite a lot of sense.
We are interested in the man, Aliko Dangote. Tell us about your upbringing, because your story is not really of one from rags to riches. You come from a wealthy family in Nigeria.
Well, I came from wealthy family. My grandfather was my great-grandfather from my mother's side was actually very, very wealthy, Alassane Tata. And then his son, also Sanusi Tata, whom really raised me up because, you know, I lost my dad at the age of 8. And, you know, so after educating me, now, you know, he gave me a loan of which I was grateful, and I paid back in 3 months, you know, because business was so good. And, you know, I was able to establish myself from the trading to, you know, manufacturing, and now to a lot of daring things, you know, like refinery, the agricultural process that we're doing, and also the, you know, fertilizer.
Right. As you say, your business spans a lot of different sectors: cement, flour, salt.
Yes.
Let me just ask you this: why commodities in a country like Nigeria, where oil is king? Why not get into the oil business right away?
Well, you see, at first, really, what we thought of doing as a company, we said that, look, let us work very, very hard and get there first. You know, because if we had followed that trend of dealing in oil, would have actually tainted our name, you know, that name, because, yes, you know, the household name, because people will always think that, look, you have made this much money because you did a lot of unethical deals in oil industry, you know, because you know the story of the oil industry. So we actually kept out of oil at all and just concentrated on food items.
As you mentioned, you're going up the food chain now, getting into energy, and in particular oil and gas refining. Nigeria has a lot of oil, but not a lot of refined gas, and it has to import most of the motor fuel and fossil fuel.
Yeah, more than 90%.
Of course, and you know, a lot of people feel that Africa could grow a lot faster with more of its own refinery capacity. So tell us about this project that you've started, and also How tough is it going to be for you? I mean, it must be very challenging because you're going to be competing against the European, the Chinese, and the American companies who are all elbowing each other to satisfy Africa's energy needs.
What we're going to do now, really, we're going to do 500,000 barrels. It was 400,000, but we're upped it now to 500,000 barrels of oil refining per day. Then petrochemical of polypropylene of 750,000. Metric tons. I know that yes, it's very, very challenging, but that's what we like. In Dangote Group, we like challenging things, and we like to make sure that we do things where we'll make our country proud and also self-sufficient. So once we do this, Nigeria will never ever import any oil at all. No petroleum products, zero. We'll meet up the full capacity, and we've taken up a land that will allow us to grow 3 times. So we have plans of also further growth. But the challenges, I think, will be able to surmount most of them because, number one, we're a local domesticated refinery. So most of the logistics cost will not be there. And then we don't have to pile up a lot of petroleum products, in stock because the refinery is there, it's working. Obviously, yes, maybe we'll have about 15, 20 days of reserves, but that's it.
How is this going to change the playing field in Nigeria?
Well, it is going to change it a great deal. This one we're building will satisfy 100% the needs of Nigeria.
If we meet domestic requirement, domestic demand, we will still have surplus to export. So that we become what we, Nigeria, should be, the hub of petroleum products supply in the region.
I'd like to talk about religion, a sensitive issue in Nigeria. You were educated at Al-Azhar University, which is the highest institution of Sunni Islam. What role has religion played in your personal life?
I'm actually very, it's not always good. Whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, it's not good for you to be too extreme in your own religion. We all worship the same God. It's just different of beliefs. You believe in this or whatever. But religion is something that is between you and your God. And I personally don't believe that. I think we should practice mostly what they are practicing here in the South, because in the South you see that yes, somebody, even in the North, I've seen some of my friends. They are married Christian, women, and they did not ask them to change their religion.
So more tolerance.
Yeah, so it's not even allowed. If you want to now go and marry a Christian, if I'm going to marry a Christian lady now, unless she believes in my religion, I'm not going to force her to change.
Well, what do you respond to those who blame religion for the social, economic, and political state of Nigeria today, who say that the lack of separation between state and religion is really the main problem in Nigeria today? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't really agree with that. The state does not really play. It's a very liberal, state. It's a country where we say that we're secular. There's actually not.
You say that you're secular, but is it practice?
I think it's practiced to a certain extent, but some politicians used to play with religion, which I think is very, very bad and dangerous. It's not good for anybody to use religion as a game. That is between you and your God. So I think they shouldn't. Really.
Some people fear that what Boko Haram is doing right now in northern Nigeria could lead to a breakup of the country along religious and ethnic lines. Do you believe that could happen in the future?
Let me also tell you something that maybe what people need to know. Do you know or do you realize that Boko Haram have actually people that they killed so far, 70% of those people are Muslims. So how do you define this? So it means that they are not fighting Christians. I think there are just some people who are trying to create issues and problems in Nigeria, hiding under this Boko Haram issues. It is a pity, but I'm sure now everybody has woken up, and I'm sure everybody will do his best. It's not only government alone that will do it. Almost every single person in the society will have to rise up against this, madness.
Would you say that the demand for some of the basic commodities that you produce, like cement for construction, flour, sugar, is driven by the world price for the natural resources that Africa exports and that contributed so much to government revenues?
Well, the cement, for one, the consumption might go a little bit down, because of, government revenues, in some few countries. But in Africa, they always had a deficit. So we might not really see too much of a change. Maybe worst case scenario, we might have the same numbers as last year, because the growth, needs to be there, because we really don't have much infrastructure in Africa. So if the governments now will try to take that opportunity by building a lot of infrastructure, it will help, because that is really what fuels the growth of the economy. I mean, you cannot really have an economy going without a good infrastructure. So in other words, today, do I think it's good the prices of oil, went down, or commodities generally? I think it is good, because it is going to now wake us up and make sure that we look at other areas of diversifying the economy and not rely on some of these few basic, raw material. We should try and convert those raw materials into finished goods, so that when we export them, we will be earning much, much more. Government should try to see, okay, fine, how do we really attract people to come in and invest, because the opportunities are enormous. It's not only in oil or in copper or in coal. I mean, there are so many areas. I mean, you look at it today in Africa. In agriculture, you're going to make huge tons of money, because we have 60% of the world's arable land. So with that, you cannot really go wrong. And you go back and look at countries like Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, all these countries before, they were living on agriculture. Okay, but unfortunately, oil came in and everybody thought, well, look, we've had enough. Oil is good enough to give us all what we needed. There was no zeal in terms of growing the other various sectors. So people just jump on oil, and even somebody who is just a peasant farmer in the village want to take a bit of, a cut in terms of getting his own oil share. So that's really what destroyed, some of, economies. But right now, things are bouncing back.